Recording, yeah. Okay, great. So welcome everyone to the call. My name is Sauraj, and of course, all of you know my colleague Lavina as well, who's been coordinating with you, I think, for a couple of months now. And we have right now three participants on the call. So there's Prachi, Vaishali, and Dhiral. And from Adventure Pulse, it is me and my colleague Lavina. So, of course, the idea of this call was to get all the participants also to kind of interact with each other. But of course, people are busy and have commitments, so you will anyways be spending a lot of days together on the trek. The second and the more important idea of the call is to be able to share with you some more information about the trek, even though I'm sure you have done your research and that's how you've kind of even signed up for the trek. But from our side, whatever additional information that we can share with you is something that we hope to do in the next 30 minutes. And then, of course, the most important being that we open it up to question and answers because that is very helpful for everyone as well, right? So, welcome to the Annapurna Base Camp trek, or as we also call it, jokingly, the trek to the stairways of heaven. And honestly, the reason I say that is that, you probably would have heard or would have read that this trek is very famous or notorious rather for all the staircase climbing that it challenges you with, right? So there are 2 to 3 days where you are 50 to 60% of your day is just stairs going up and coming down, which, of course, I will be very honest with you, beyond a point can get a little monotonous and painful. But, there is a goal, there's a definitive goal, which is the Annapurna Base Camp. Um, it's interesting because as we speak right now, we have a team of about 9 trekkers who are reaching the Annapurna base camp now in the next 2 to 3 hours. We've already finished one group of Annapurna base camp mid-March. We are finishing one tomorrow, and then there's another group. So by the time you actually go, you are the fourth, actually the fifth group of the season who would be going for Annapurna base camp with Adventure Pulse. So, starting with this, we just want to give you a little bit of an orientation of how your trek really pans out. And it's actually very different from the Everest Base Camp trek because of the altitude and the topography that you will experience here, right? So, if you really look at some of the, you know, iconic places on this map, towards the left of your map, there is this place called Ghorepani. And if you see, Ghorepani is actually at 2,860 meters, which is the same start point as Lukla. As you've done Everest Base Camp, some of you have done at least the Everest Base Camp, you can tell that the start point of the Everest Base Camp and the Annapurna Base Camp trek remain the same. But unlike EBC, here you actually end up descending for the next 2 to 3 days rather than gaining altitude. So, of course, from Ghorepani, if you see the extreme left feature of the screen, there is this mountain called the Pun Hill, which a lot of the trekkers go for to get really good views. But honestly, Pun Hill is optional because you would actually be doing the entire Annapurna Base Camp trek. So whatever views that you will get from Pun Hill are actually similar views that you will also get throughout the trek. Pun Hill kind of became really famous because for a lot of trekkers who are doing the shorter circuit, who are actually just doing Ghorepani, Pun Hill, and Ghandruk and coming back, for them getting the views, Pun Hill became like this really good feature to climb up to. But because since your group is doing the entire Annapurna base camp trek, Punhil is completely optional. But once you really start from Ghorepani and you move towards your right, you can see this place called Tadapani on the screen, which is 2630 meters. And then from there, if you move further right and descend down a little bit, you actually see this place called Chumrung, which is 2170 meters. And then you actually see this place called Dovan to the right of the screen, which is also 2600 meters. So essentially, from Ghorepani, you're moving right towards Tadapani, towards Chumrung, and towards Dovan. And if you notice, all three places are below the altitude of Ghorepani. So Annapurna Base Camp trek honestly is one of those treks wherein you would not suffer from AMS or high altitude sickness, because the first 2 3 days you get kind of enough time to acclimatize well. The oxygen is in abundance. There are a lot of trees, a lot of forests. So, unlike the Everest Base Camp, you're actually gaining considerable height every single day. Here, you're losing considerable amount of height every single day, right? So, from that perspective, it's a really good trek. As I said, the only thing you really need to be mentally prepared for is all the staircases that you have to kind of train for and prepare for, right? So, some details about the itinerary. All of you are getting into Kathmandu. Some of you are planning to get into Kathmandu early. Some of you are also planning to get into Pokhara a day or two early and stuff like that. But essentially, the team will meet in Kathmandu, and some people will directly also join us in Pokhara. And of course, all those logistics are will be taken care of, are already taken care of, and Lavina is already coordinating with you on the logistics. Uh, but what really happens on the first day when you actually get to Pokhara, this particular day kind of becomes a long day, because from Pokhara, we first start driving to this place called Banthati. We have an early lunch there. And then we're also trekking to Ghorepani, which is about a 3 to 3.5 hour trek. And for because most of you are also flying in from Kathmandu to Pokhara that morning, so that particular day you are actually taking a flight, then you're taking a jeep, and then you're walking as well. So this particular day is almost like a 12-hour day, because you start your day at about 6:30 in the morning from Kathmandu, and by the time you really reach Ghorepani, you actually only finish your day by about 6 to 6:30 in the evening. So it does become a long day. And then, of course, day three onwards, the normal itinerary kind of kicks in. As I said, day three, it's optional if you want to go to Punhil. You continue your trek to Tadapani. From Tadapani, we again descend down to Chumrung, which is quite low in altitude. So you kind of get some really good rest in Chumrung. And then from Chumrung, you continue your journey towards Dovan, then a place called Devrali, and eventually, of course, you reach the Annapurna base camp. And the good thing is that on the way back, you're not doing the entire circuit. On the way back, you're going from Annapurna base camp to Dovan, and then you actually finish at this place called Dada. So coming down essentially is all of 2 days. So 2 full days of trekking down actually get you to the roadhead. You spend a night there, and then next day you just drive from Pokhara to Kathmandu. Sorry, from Dada to Pokhara, and then you fly out the next day. So that's how your entire itinerary is kind of panned out. Of course, if there are any questions on the itinerary, you can go ahead and ask. That's really not a problem. There are 2 3 important things that we want to share with you. And then, of course, as I said, we'll be happy to open this forum to question and answers. So essentially, one is, how does the food and the accommodation look like on the Annapurna Base Camp trek? So, if some of you have done the Everest Base Camp trek, the accommodation as compared to EBC on Annapurna is actually far more basic and very sparse in every way. Um, there is, essentially on Everest Base Camp, I'm sorry, I'm just keep comparing it to EBC because it's easy to relate. But on Everest Base Camp, on certain places, you actually have the option of getting rooms with something called as attached washrooms, which, trust me, is a little bit of a luxury. But at Annapurna Base Camp, that concept doesn't really exist. The Annapurna Sanctuary actually is a conservation region. And what really happens is that, for many years now, these people have not been allowed any new construction. So as a result, the rooms are a little old and a little basic. So typically, the way it works is that there are about, let's say, 7 to 8 rooms on one particular floor. And then after that, you have 2 or 3 common washrooms towards the end of the corridor. So it's a very like hostel kind of a feel that you will get. Uh, the first 4 days, which is at Ghorepani, at Tadapani, at Chumrung, and at Dovan. At these four places, the accommodation typically is on double sharing basis or maximum on triple sharing basis. As you can see on the photo, there would be two or three beds in a room that the trekkers would be sharing. But what is important to know is that at Devrali and at Annapurna Base Camp, which is the last two places, there is no concept of room allocation. What they follow is a concept of just bed allocation. Now, because the number of rooms or number of lodges at these two places are very limited, and in April, the number of trekkers are far more. So, the idea is that everybody gets a comfortable bed to sleep rather than a private room because that inventory is just not available. So we are being very honest in telling you that in Devrali and at Annapurna Base Camp, the accommodation is more like a hostel dormitory system. So you will be given a room which would have anywhere from 5 to 6 beds. Of course, privacy is maintained and it'll be a different room for male trekkers and a different room for female trekkers. But there could be a then there will be a situation where you would probably be sharing a room with 5 to 6 other trekkers because it's more like a dormitory, right? And the same, like the females would be sharing it with the female trekkers. So for these 2 nights, in every sense, you are kind of roughing it out. So you just need to be mentally prepared that that's how the accommodation works at Devrali and at the Annapurna base camp. So this is something that we wanted to share with you as well. Um, Before I get into layering and what kind of clothing you kind of need to carry, I'm going to just take 2 minutes and talk about the physical fitness preparation because that is very, very important. So essentially, now you have, I would say, pretty much about 3 weeks to go for the trek, less than a month. So in the next 3 weeks, what we really need you to do is we kind of need you to shift gears and focus a little more on your physical fitness preparation. I know that all of you are kind of already preparing for this trek, but what is it that you can do differently? We highly would recommend that you should try and spend some time on the staircase. So, depending on whether you live on which floor or whether you live in a high-rise building or an individual apartment, if you can get access to a staircase, to give you a simple example, if you stay in a building which is, let's say, 10 floors, for example, uh, you start climbing stairs, you do, let's say, 3 floors, sorry, the 10 staircases into 3 times, so that's 30 floors, you do it 4 times, so that's 40 floors. So progressively kind of increase that intensity every week. You don't really need to take the stairs down. You can of course just go up, take the lift down, go up, take the lift down because we don't want your knees also to get stressed out unnecessarily. But at least 3 to 4 days in a week, if you can, you should do about 20 to 30 minutes of dedicated staircase climbing. Trust me, that will be really, really helpful, especially on those 2 days, when those stairs come and you're climbing finally towards the Annapurna base camp. Of course, other than that, we need you to increase the intensity of your cardio related workouts that you're doing by about 15 to 20%. So if you're, let's say, walking on a treadmill and you're walking on an incline for about 45 minutes, can you push it to 50 minutes? Can you push it to an hour? If you're on the treadmill on an incline degree of 8, can you push it to 10? The idea is to basically, the last 3 weeks, come out of your comfort zone, push yourself a little extra by 15-20%, both in terms of the time and the intensity. And if you can do this for about 4 to 5 days a week, of course, you need 1 or 2 days to rest and to do some stretching as well. But 4 to 5 days a week for the next 3 weeks, if you can kind of increase the intensity and prepare well, then trust me, the trek, we also want that the trek becomes a more enjoyable experience for you. Because as much as we can stress about the fact that those staircases are hard, and you mentally prep yourself. But trust me, when you're on those staircases, there is a point where you're like, when will these stairs end? I have done this trek multiple times, and every time when I'm on those stairs, I'm like, oh God, like when will these end? So, the more you prepare, the better it'll be. So yeah, these are some short snippets of information that we want to share with you. As I said, in interest of everybody, we would just want to open it up for questions so that everybody can benefit. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask, and we will be happy to answer.
Hey, Sauraj. Sauraj, just want to understand. Yeah, I agree. 2 days of staircases and everything, but averagely, you're saying that you should increase the intensity of the stair climbings, whatever we are doing. Uh, so say I'm doing 10 floors for 2 times, like 20 floors or 30 floors. So what should I be increasing up to? Like for this week, I say 40 floors, like 4 times, and then next week 5 times, something like that? Or would you recommend something else? Like,
No, what you said, Prachi, is exactly what we recommend. So let's say if you're doing
mhm,
uh, 10 floors into 4 times, so you're doing a total of 40
hmm,
floors. The next week, we would
correct.
say that can you do 10 floors into 5 times? And then the
Hmm,
third week, can you do 10 floors into 6 times? So by the end of the third week, from 40 floors, you've already kind of progressed to 60 floors, which is
correct.
good enough progress. And yes, that is
Hmm,
exactly what we need you to do. Just keep
okay.
increase. If you're comfortable in the last week, maybe you can even push to
Hmm,
7 times, for example. But yes,
correct.
that's exactly
Correct.
what we need you to do.
Okay. Okay. And just climbing, you're saying that don't try to descend with the floors because then it might, considering chances of injury or something like that might happen near to the trek. Okay. Okay.
See,
Got it.
honestly, you will have to do it while on the trek. On the trek, the
Yeah.
2 days when you're
Of
really
course.
coming down from Annapurna base camp, it will be
Mm-hmm.
hard on your knees. And you will have to descend. But
Yeah.
there's no point really doing it while you're practicing because it's just hard on your knees. The amount of endurance required obviously to come down is slightly lower than as compared to
Okay.
going up. So yes, at this
Hmm.
point, we just need you to practice more for going up. And
Okay.
Annapurna Base Camp is one of those treks that we highly recommend that everybody carries a trekking pole as well. Like some people prefer to trek with the trekking pole, and some people prefer not to trek with the trekking pole, which is absolutely fine. While going up, it's your choice, but have it handy in your day pack, especially while coming down, because if you're using a trekking pole, the trekking pole, even if it absorbs just 5 to 10% of the pressure of the knees shifted to the hand to the trekking pole, it will be
It
helpful.
will be
So definitely do carry a trekking pole as well on the way down.
helpful. Okay. And would you suggest kneecaps to be carried for a safer descent because of the so much of descent in 2 days?
Yes,
Kneecaps
Prachi,
or something
absolutely.
like
Yes,
that
that's
protective straps.
that's also a good idea.
Okay.
We do recommend that at least one kneecap and a trekking
Hmm.
pole is something that you would kind of need on the way down because the descent can be much harder.
Brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the word is brutal. That's it's
Honestly, I was
harder.
I was refraining from using that word, but what you're saying is
No,
right, and I
that's
agree
fine.
with you. It is brutal.
Descent is always brutal. Descent is always brutal.
And trust me, on Annapurna Base Camp, all the more.
I asked the same question to Lavina. How many stairs I have to climb on the trek? So she's like 3,000, 4,000. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's you
Suraj,
you
I
lose
have a
count beyond a point. You
question.
lose count.
Yeah, Suraj, I have a question. Do we need Diamox tablets?
So Vaishali, I'm glad you asked that. So for Diamox, what really happens is that it's actually a personal choice. Um, so
Okay.
we, so the way Diamox really works is that you can take it in two ways. You can either take it preventive. That means from the day your trek is starting, you can start having, let's say, one tablet every day in the morning, for example, as a preventive measure. The
Hmm.
other way to take Diamox is reactive, which is, if we see symptoms of AMS, which is acute mountain sickness, and the symptoms typically would be either a headache, nausea, or loss of appetite. These are the three symptoms that will come up. So if we see any of these symptoms, we will be the first ones to kind of recommend that you start taking a Diamox. So, Vaishali, it's one of those things that there is no right or wrong answer to this. It's really a personal choice. On a trek like Annapurna Base Camp, Usually you don't really require to take a Diamox as preventive because as I was covering in the earlier part of the PPT, that you are actually much below 3000 meters for almost the first 4 days. So you're actually
Oh,
walking
okay.
through a forest. There's a lot of tree line, there's a lot of tree cover. Oxygen is really in abundance. So you will
Hmm.
not really feel any symptoms of AMS for the first 4 days, which kind of gives your body enough time and chance to really acclimatize well. You're spending only one night above the altitude of 4000 meters and then you're coming back. So, if you ask us, of course, you should carry a Diamox. Our guides will also be carrying a Diamox. Whether you want to take it preventive or reactive, it's really a personal choice. I don't know if you have any prior trekking experience, and on that, if you have faced any challenges with the altitude, then we would say definitely take it preventive. Don't take a chance. But if you've done a high altitude trek previously and you didn't really have any challenges with the altitude, then you don't need to kind of take it
So I
preventive.
went to Elbrus in
Okay.
July, August, and we had to take it there because it's definitely more than even EBC
Oh,
or the
yes, yes.
current one.
That's correct.
So
Absolutely.
this one, just to keep it more safe with the body and more ongoing with the body, I thought like, should I carry one or no? That's the main thing.
Carry on for sure. Definitely carry a strip
Okay.
of Dimox with you. Um, to take it, as I said, that's a personal choice really. But Elbrus, yes, it's a very different terrain altogether, and you're gaining a lot of altitude very fast as well. But here you don't really need it as such.
And for the staircase, in the gym, you have the staircase climber. Is that okay, or you need to go into a building and do the staircase? Or in
No,
the
even
gym is
a
fine.
even a staircase climber is fine.
In the
It's
gym. So if it's in the
yes.
gym, how many minutes or what speed do you recommend?
So in terms of the time, I would definitely recommend 30 to 40 minutes at least. If you can push more than that, even better. 45 minutes is also good. Um, Honestly, I've never used a staircase master, so I won't really
Mm-hmm.
know what kind of speeds do they work on. But to be on the safe side, anything which is making you tired, anything which is out of your
Right.
comfort zone a little bit, like after 30
Mm.
minutes, you should be in a zone, in a heart rate zone where your body is telling you, okay, you know what, stop. Like I'm getting tired, you should now stop. So
Mm.
any speed which is 5% outside your comfort zone is what you should try and do. Because the idea
You
here is
recommend
actually that
cycling or only staircase?
we would recommend staircase climbing and walking on a treadmill on an incline. Cycling, of course, is
Walking and
also great. But between these three activities, I would say staircase climbing and walking on a treadmill on an incline is something that will prepare you a little better for Annapurna Base Camp.
right. Okay, fine. Okay, got
Instead
it.
of treadmill, instead of treadmill, can we do a regular walks of 5, 7 kilometers on the roads up and down and like that? Is that fine? Not
Yes.
the
No, if
incline like a treadmill, but yeah, like little bit like society slopes and everything. That way, it's like
Yeah, if there are decent slopes, then yes. So the thing is that, the idea behind the next 3 weeks essentially is that, there is a phase when you're just doing, when you're not preparing for anything. There is a phase when you're doing a leisure walk in the evening for 30 minutes. Maybe you're talking to an office colleague, maybe you're listening to music.
yeah,
So all that, of course, is great to maintain journal fitness, but that will not help you build endurance for Annapurna Base Camp. But of course, if you are doing a focused, let's say a 5 to 6 kilometer walk where you know that you will be going over an incline and a decline, let's say at least every 1 or 2 kilometers, that dip is happening and your body is getting a little tired, then obviously it's fine. Then of course you don't need to do a treadmill and that is also okay.
What about the food part? I mean, what's a basic food do we get for 3 meals?
So, Vaishali, the way this works is that, because you're not camping out and you're staying in these lodges, they're very basic lodges, family run lodges. What they do is they give you a menu card and you're actually free to order what you like. So, what happens is on our meal plan, you're allowed to order any one dish and one beverage. So, we include three beverages a day. If you want a fourth beverage, then of course you can order and you can directly clear the bill for that. And 3 meals a day are included: breakfast, lunch, dinner. So for lunch and dinner, typically, there's dal bhat tarkari. In Nepal, they have this thing called the DBT, right? And I can see Prachi smiling. I think she's thinking of all the DBT she's had during Everest Base Camp.
Dal
So
bhat power 24 hour.
yeah, the Sherpas say dal bhat power 24 hour. So Vaishali, the way this works is that it's a fresh vegetarian thali, but there's no concept of rotis or chapatis. But they also have a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
I'm
mixed
thinking
cuisine.
that.
So
Yeah,
they have
I've done the EBC.
Okay, you've done
EBC.
the
So
EBC. So it's very similar food, Vaishali. It's there's
yeah.
Tibetan cuisine, there's a mix of sandwiches, soups, momos, thupkas, pizzas, pastas, and of course the DBT you've experienced as well. So whatever kind of food you got on Everest Base Camp, very similar, same cuisine is what you will get. And as I said, you're just free to order what you like, so you can kind of mix and match as to what you want to order.
Okay. Yeah. What about the layering? How do we prepare for that?
Yes, that's a really good point. So let me allow me to just kind of bring up this one slide that I wanted to share with all of you as well in terms of the layering. These are the layers that we would recommend everyone to carry, which is essentially right from your thermals um, to a full sleeve t-shirt. And then the next three layers, the number three, number four, number five, which is essentially your fleece jacket, your down jacket, and a windproof jacket.
Could you share this with us?
Yes, absolutely. We will share this with
Yeah.
you. But
Yeah.
starting from number one to number five, you will of course not be wearing these layers together at one time. But depending on how the day is looking and depending on how the weather is or how the wind is, you will be doing a mix and match. So, for example, the first 2 days, only your t-shirt and your fleece jacket is enough. The moment you cross the 3000-meter mark, your t shirt, your fleece jacket, and your windproof will be enough. And the last 2 days, chances are you would probably need your thermals and your down jacket as well. So, we will, of course, share this with you. But a good fleece, a good down, and a good windproof is something which is highly recommended that you carry. Of course, for some of you who've been to Nepal, you can shop from Nepal as well. We highly recommend that if there's something on your shopping list that you have not been able to buy in India, then please don't buy it also. The kind of shopping options you will get in Nepal, you get like really good variety of anything and everything you need. Jackets, socks, warm cap, duffel bag, rucksack, water bottle, trekking pole, thermals. You just name a thing and you will get it there. And you will all get it within like 5 minutes walking from your hotel. So if there's anything which is pending in your shopping list or a good jacket, so you can just be rest assured that you can buy it from Nepal from any of the shops around.
Um, is that windproof, the water jacket like a Gore-Tex jacket? Is that okay?
Yes, Vaishali, that's absolutely fine. A Gore-Tex material is perfect for that because it's also windproof and it's also a little water resistant. So
And duffel bag, how many kilos will I be allowed? Because I have a medium-sized duffel bag, I need to check the weight, what can be permitted.
So the weight Vaishali is 10 kgs on the trek. So the porter will
Okay.
carry a duffel bag or a rucksack, whatever that it is. You can hand over 10 kgs to the porter. So typically, so the weight limit for the flight is 15 kgs. So when you fly from Kathmandu to Pokhara, even though in the flight in your check-in you're allowed 15 kgs, but when you hand over your bag to the porter, then the weight limit is 10 kgs. So, of course, we recommend that you pack accordingly only. But, of course, you can also leave some stuff behind in Kathmandu. So, if you have an extra bag or if you have an overnight suitcase, you can just leave it in the cloakroom in Kathmandu because there are some things that you may not need for the trek, and you can leave them behind.
Yeah, so I was also planning. Sorry. Sorry, Rajata. Last question. So I was also planning to get a day or two early to Kathmandu or Pokhara. So is there anybody else coming so I can, coordinate and we can move around, or which hotel are we staying? So accordingly we can plan. I'm
Especially
not
I'm
sure how the
coming on
group is.
19th.
Yeah, I think
I'm
Yeah,
coming
there
on
are
19th.
quite a few people coming early. Prachi's coming early, Dhiral is coming early, Ajit sir's coming early also. There are three, four people. I think 19th, some are coming on 19th, some are coming on 20th also.
yeah.
Yeah. So, you recommend any hotel, or I will just give you the flight details accordingly for the 19th?
Yeah, sure. Just send across your flights to me. In case you want to stay in the same hotel as, the group is staying in, we can look at availability and book that for you for the extra nights
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, currently, see, as per the GCC condition, the airspace is going in and out. It's open, shutting, open, shutting. So, till the 10th, I will not have any clarity how it is looking. But only by
Understood.
the 8th or 10th of April, I will know what is the situation here.
Understood. No
Which
problem.
uh,
Just one
which
o'clock.
location are you based out of?
I'm in Muscat.
Yeah, then yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Of course, I think you'll have to wait and watch for some time because things are a little volatile there at this point.
Yeah, so every 5 days they are changing the airspace. It opens and closes. Um, so that's the situation. What is happening now? Or
Right.
else the last bit is to come via Delhi, wait for a night in Delhi, and then travel down.
Right. I'm really sorry, but I will have to just request all of you to kind of log off and log on to the same link again.